Welcome. Happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday, right? Yeah, Wednesday the 5th. We're looking at my favorite tricks and tips with the OPXY today. Got a clean, fresh piece of paper. I actually was working on something new. It sounded kind of cool. The one thing I was listening to, did you hear the how cool that synth sounded, right? It's got that plucky, airy sound, right? So today I'm going to share how I get some of my sounds and what I do. I'm going to share some of the workflow processes that I do to make this machine kind of talk, and what I kind of, I would say do on a daily basis to say, why is it so good? Why are people talking about it? Maybe why do I like to mentor TE stuff? Why do I like teaching this online? So, yeah, that was like a brand new jam. That was super unexpected. So I'm going to save that real quick. I always recommend saving everything. There's something in the manual that says too, when you do a lot of saving, it makes backups and things like that in case you have to go back to versions if you screw something up. So just make sure you save a lot. I think saving is an important part, so I always hit save. And now when I start anything, I just blank. I'm going to make it totally blank because I'm going to show you the tricks right from the start. And the thing you got to remember is the metronome's just on from the start. So I kind of turn the metronome off and change my tempo right away. The easiest thing with any sequencer is laying drums down. And in this one, I'm just going to lay the most simple thing down so I can actually have a metronome, right? Okay, so there are some things I'm going to talk about today. If you have any questions, you can always leave me comments or leave me an email. These are meant to help you with like the functional movements of the machine itself. This might be workflow as well. And when I'm making any kind of sound or anything like that, I was teaching earlier that shift and the number 1 underneath here, which are the actual buttons, is your engine starting point, meaning a blank, right? So shift plus 1 equals blank. All right, and when I say blank, that means it's a blank synthesizer. So you can start from access, dissolve, the drums, electric piano, hard sync, right? And these are just their synths, right? So I always say starting from a blank a lot of times is so you won't sound like anybody else. And you can start shaping the actual synths. And if I'm making a bass on this track, the other thing is the usage of your filter, right? So the next thing I can't stress enough, use it's going to shape the sound utmost. So it's your EQ, right? And when you use it, you've got a couple things. You've got the amount of the envelope to it, you have the amount of resonance, and you have key follow. Key follow is when you're making it more like old Roland synths have key track follow. I think most basic synths have it, and that's if you're trying to emulate like a brass sound. So basically, it'll start opening that filter. So that's more like you're making a piece of brass, right? But I like that for like, it actually moves the filter subtly, and I'm going to use a little bit of the envelope as well. So I always say use the filter because it's always going to make things sound a little bit better. You're going to be able to shape things. So I'm just doing the most easy thing right now because, again, we're showing my tricks, right? Now, the next one is kind of like not known, and this is linking tracks. And when I say link tracks, like let's imagine these two sounds, 7 and 8, I'm going to play at the same time. I'm going to go find a sound here. There's like a synth, right? And then I'm going to find a sound on this one. Let's say it's a string, right? Let's change it a little bit. Okay. If I hold down number 8 and then I hold down number 7, do you see how they're like, one's light gray, one's white? And now I'm playing that synth with the string behind it. So you can link up to 4 tracks, okay? And that is so that we can make like a layered sound, something more like a bigger layer, like a stack, right? And this stack is a synth, but when I hold it down, it has a string behind it. All right, now that's called linking tracks. Now I think linking tracks is something that when I figured this out, it's just awesome. It sounds like you're playing a bigger synthesizer, right? So we're going to link it. We're going to record on number 8. Okay, and then once I record this part, I'm going to show you another trick about what happens when you link it, what you got to do next, okay? So we're going to say record, right? I'm going to make sure this is 4 bars long, right? And we're just playing in C, so I'm going to keep this like as simple as possible. I'm not trying to do anything crazy. Another favorite trick right now, I'm going to show you. If you hit record play, it's like listening for live recording. So the next note you play will start the sequence. So that is record plus play. And I call that cue up to record. So right now it's queued up. You got the light blinking. It's ready to record. The next note I play, it will actually start the sequence and record at the same time. So let's see what happens. Right? Super easy. I'm going to lower it a little bit. Right? And what I did was I linked the 2 tracks. Now, the truth in this, when you link them, when you go to your MIDI track thing, you actually got to go to 8 and copy the MIDI notes. And then I go to 7 and I paste them. Okay, just to make sure they're on both tracks. I know they're linked, but it doesn't record it to both tracks. I know this sounds crazy, but it does not. So you'll know that. Like it won't. Yeah. And then to unlink them, you hold it down, you touch it, and then you do it again. It unlinks them. But I put the same thing on the string track and on track 8. Okay? So they should have, you know, it's pretty. Let me see. I'm going to go make sure that has a string on 7. Yep. And I don't know why it doesn't sound like it's playing it, does it? Yeah, it's just because I'm not playing the notes very hard, right? And with that synth, with the string synth, this is where you got to go in and make sure. There it is. Your amp and your sustain are up, right? I'm going to make sure. Got that weird FM as well. You hear it in the string synth. So, okay. So, we talked about making a blank. If you go to a synth, you just go to number 6 and then you hit shift 1 right here. That's a blank. My second tip is use the filter. Use it as an EQ. It's the best way to shape sounds, bar none. Linking tracks was where I showed you can link, touch one track, hold it down, touch another track. That's linking them. And then record play is like cue, get ready to record. And then the next note you touch, it will start recording the sequence, okay? So those are so far the first 4. I hope everybody's doing all right. I'm going to get a sip of coffee. Like I said, this was meant to be quick and informative and not to be like dragged on. So I'm trying to go through them kind of fast. The next trick, and this one will help you a lot. I always make sure in the mixer that things are actually mixed well. But I would be careful of how much FX send. I use light amounts, and the only time I use really heavy amounts of FX send is if I'm resampling the engine to put more grit on something or do something kind of disgusting, right? And that means like if we're on a sound, I use the FX engine to make it more distorted or phasered, and then I resample it. Now, I'll go through a resampling the engines and everything on another tutorial, because that will just take me way off course onto something that I don't want to talk about right now. But remember, when we're making a track, the FX sends are on this last number 4. It's on this last channel. It's your mixer channel. And the first two, FX send 1, FX send 2. If you start using a lot, let's just say, unless you make like shoegaze, you know, or something like that, I always feel like the track, you know, this is tons of reverb. It's not too bad. So the reverb's pretty forgiving. I think the delay, too much of that would start to like stack up. So just be careful. Like I have found less is more. And when I'm making a track, I'm actually looking for more precision, right? Because later on, I'm going to end up recording this into the DAW or maybe mixing it or something like that. So I'll decide later if I'm going to put more effects on it. And we know that we can make actually more scenes with wetter effects and things changing, right? So I'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so light on the FX sends while you're making a track, because if you use it too wet, it just might go out too far, you know, too far. Okay, now as I'm making this track, I'm already kind of getting like kind of bored, right? And I want some changes. And what I really love here is on the second 1 through 8, which is basically where the brain is, where your step effects are. Step effects can actually have different scenes. And they can mute. All right, and what that means is this. If we're working on a musical idea on the OPXY, it's running, I'm bored. You know, you can start pushing stuff, right? It's running, right? I'm gonna make it 4 bars, right? So I'm gonna hit record. So I'm just touching step effects, right? Okay, so I did 4 bars of it. Pretty uneventful, because there's nothing going on in this beat, right? So let me just spice up the beat a little. So now, as that's running, if you don't want to hear any of that stuff, you literally can just go to the track and mute it. So now all the step effects have stopped. Okay, right? And then if I go back here and I hold down, you can bring them back. Right? The other thing with step effects that's fun is like doubling the time of them. It's so dumb, so you can like double the time. But remember, step effects can be muted. The other one is tape loops. Also, my other favorite, tape effects. Tape effects can be muted. Okay, and what that means is this. All right, so if you start playing with the tape as well, as it's running, so I just start doing stuff, and if you hold down, you can mute it. And if I unmute it, so say you want to go into this like weird affixy break. So super normal, everything's muted, and then here's our step effects. And then I'm gonna unmute the tape, watch. Then you can bring it back, you know? So remember, those things are mutable, that you can actually mute the track and bring it back. Right? So there was our breakdown, super cheesy. And if we go back and we want to hear the tape effects on the synths, I muted it. So super easy, right? And then again, I can bring that tape effect back. Okay, and sorry this is so boring as far as the song. The point of this was actually to teach a lot of this stuff. So remember, tape and step effects can be muted just like you can mute a track. When you hold it down, they turn red, and if you touch them, they're off now, you know, so you can even mute effects. So see, it's dry now. I muted the effects. And then tapes in, tapes off, right? So you can use them as subtle like breaks, you know, that you're using those to perform live, right? Now, the other thing that you can do that's really crazy, and as far as like muting, unmuting, you can make scenes for the effects, right? So like the fact that I'm here on the arrangement is like if you touch it once, you're on your synths, and if you touch it again, you're actually on the tape reel. Okay, and that means like I could just go to number 2, the step effects, and make a new one, and I can go to the tape reel and make a new one, and then we can unmute them. You know, sorry, and I don't know if I did that right with. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So when I hit play now, they're not there. We can record up to 9 different ways to do the effects. So don't forget scenes. 9 total. And that's 9 total per track. So you have like 9 ways to like mess with the global effects, step effects, the global tape. That could be 18 if you did, you know, combinations of them, or, you know, combinations are even more, but there's 9 of each, right, which equals 18. Okay, you can actually do different scenes on effects too, which would be like effect switching and, you know, all kinds of weird things that get kind of crazy. So there is a lot under the hood. I didn't think this was deeper than the Octatrack, but as I've been using it, and I'm a heavy Octatrack user, you know, most of the time, or Digitac now, because the Digitac I like a little bit better. I don't know. I'm someone that's like learning these things. So just remember, there's a lot of scenes that are underneath the hood that you can use as well. The last thing I'm going to leave everybody with, and we're about the 20-minute mark, so the last thing I want everybody to remember is swing, okay? And it's not just swing, it's the swing modes, okay? And swing modes, before I said, I think there's like 11. All right, and what that means is the actual synth itself can swing off of the grid that many different ways. There's also nudge, and this works the same way, and this is what I call a controllable nudge, right? Like that you can nudge around. So remember that the swing modes, when you're inside of tempo, that you could actually see, that's crazy, that there are different sample and, you know, different swings and shuffles and things like that. Now, the other thing I did secretly is under the hood, you can look at, when you're inside a tempo, there's like different ways of looking at, I don't know, like you can always have your swing by looking at that center. You can see the name right here, and you can actually watch the way that this ticker swings moves. So like as I move it, you'll see it stay heavy on a side or glitch different. You'll see it in the design of it. So just remember, as you're playing with swing, there's a lot of variance there, and there's so many different modes that swing modes can make the song have like a completely different feel. So on play out, let's goof around. Ready? And I'm just going to start messing around so you can see. again, remember, I had a lot of stuff under the hood going on, right? Which were step effects, right? And I can just mute them, right? So remember, when you do step effects, you can mute them, right? And then here comes like the perfect time to tell you this, right? Again, save. Because it makes iterations. So now that I've been working on this, I'm going to rename it. And I'll hurry and do it as fast as I can. Stream, if I can find TFAS, yep. And I'm learning how to kind of go through the letters fast. You do that if you've been on these devices before. It's a pain in the butt sometimes. I wish there was like a typing. Okay, so K-stream, boom, save. Okay, now, if I decided to start making changes, heavy changes, and doing things, from what I understand, in the background, autosave, you actually have snapshots and time signatures of when you did that. Okay, and that means like as I save it, it makes different snapshots. And if you start ruining one of your favorite songs, you can go back to like an earlier iteration that wasn't as messed up as it is. So I can't tell you how important it is to press save like a lot, right? Because you're always going to be making snapshots. And if you do mess up something pretty bad, you can definitely, come back to it. So I would say make sure you're saving, all right? And this is just a recap, and then I'm going to go because I got other stuff I got to do today. I'm sorry. I was trying to make this informative and quick. So I said shift 1. So that trick was if you're on a synthesizer and you press shift 1 over here, you go to the blank versions of synths instead of like the versions of synths that they, are out of the box, let's call it, where they have presets. So make blanks and save and make your own work. I always say use the filter as much as possible. And a lot of the sounds that I use here, typically the filter is on. And even if it is just a subtle amount of modulation, remember that when you're in your envelope, if you touch the buttons, you switch between the filter envelope and the VCA envelope. So there's a way to like control it. And remember that there is envelope key tracking, and that's the white knob here. That's indicative of like the old early Roland stuff that I love to use. I would do that all the time to make brass and make different things. Linking tracks was the other one. So I'm going to hit save here. And I'm going to just show everybody on a blank. Like literally if I held down number 8, and then I held down number 7, and then I held down number 6 and number 5. Like I have all 4 of those synths held down. And if I play right now, it's all of them. It's all 4 at the same time. So for people who make like ambient music, I mean, listen how beautiful. So I linked all 4 synths, so I'm playing 4 synths at one time. You can literally make layered sandwiches of things outside of doing the key splits. So like that's if you held down one and you touch the other ones, you just touch the ones you want to link. Linking tracks, that is amazing. The other one I did was record play, and that is the cue up. So if you hit record play, it starts flashing, and then the first note you play, it starts recording. That's on other TE stuff too. That's on like the OP field, OPZ. It's on the OP1. Effects send. My tip was use light amounts of FX sends. Okay. Step effects and tape effects can be muted. So don't forget, as you're playing around, if you hold down number 1 through 8, the second page, you can actually mute step effects and tape loop effects. Okay, that's if you got out of hand and you just want to hear the track clean again, not with all the effects you did. Don't forget, you can also make scenes on both sides. So if you touch it the first time, you're on the 1 through 8 here. If you touch it the second time, you're on the 1 through 8 effects. And you have 9 different scenes for every track. So as you start messing around, if you go out into the weeds, you can make a clean scene. Just leave the 9th one open for blankness. I always joke around and say, remember, there's 9 scenes. And the swing modes, when you start doing anything, remember to pick your swing mode and start playing with swing, because that'll make the track nudge a completely different way that you didn't expect. There's a funk one that I love. It's really cool. And the last one, every single time you make something, please do yourself a favor and press save. So the one we just did, I think, was K-Stream. I'm going to load it. It's super cheesy. Hey, I want to appreciate everyone and say thank you, because I appreciate everybody for tuning in and just learning little tips, even if you just stop in for a little while. Hopefully this was a cool overview on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 favorite OPXY tricks. If you're just getting started, you can pause and kind of do these tricks with me and watch the stream over. If you have comments, leave me comments. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. If you like the content, always like the videos. And happy Wednesday, March 5th. I mean, the weather's starting to break a little bit, so go out there, walk around, enjoy the day. And again, thank you everybody for tuning in.